Eagles Entertainment.
Eagle Eye in the Sky is fueled by Gatorade, the official sports drink of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Anything that moves, I don't care who it is. Let's go. Give me everything you got. Play fast, play hard. Let's beat these boys tonight in their house. It's party time. It's party time. Hey, here we go. Touchdown!
You're listening to the Eagle Eye in the Sky podcast. Now here's your host, Fran Duffy.
That's right, another week, and we're talking D-line plays. The Eagle Eye in the Sky podcast, fueled by Gatorade, continues. I'm Fran Duffy, and as always, I think we've got a great show for you here on episode number 237. At the top of this week's show, we've got Chalk Talk, where I chat with a couple of guests this week. First up, I've got Eagles defensive line coach and run game coordinator Matt Burke, where not only do we talk about Javon Hargrave and how he fits this Eagles scheme, but we talk about pass rush plans, what it takes to be good at running stunts and twists along the D-line, and a whole lot more. But that's not all we've got today, because I want to roll out a conversation I had with an NFL legend in Willie McGinest. I caught up with Willie down at the East-West Shrine Bowl a couple of months ago. We talked about D-line play and what it takes to be a successful pass rusher in the NFL. But let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into it now. Let's talk with Matt Burke. It's time for Chalk Talk.
Let's get down to business. It's time for Chalk Talk.
Well, really excited to welcome in Eagles defensive line coach and run game coordinator Matt Burke. Matt, thanks for joining us here to talk some Javon Hargrave.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me.
So let's talk about Javon. I think for fans, we've heard a lot about what he can bring to the table. I'm interested to get from you just kind of your scouting report. What does he bring to the field? What is it that he's going to bring to this Eagles defense here this fall?
Yeah, I think, when we went through the process for free agency with Javon, one of the things we really noticed, obviously playing a little bit in a read type scheme and some of those things, still the ability for him to get off and what we look for in our D-line in terms of an attack front and guys that can disrupt and get penetration. He had a lot of TFLs and pressures and sacks for a guy that wasn't being asked to play that way. And for us to project him translating sort of into our style defense, we thought there was a lot of upside. Obviously a kid that's kind of hitting his prime. He was a guy that a lot of us liked coming out in the draft, 4 years ago. So kind of continued that thread along and followed the career, and just really think he's a great fit. I think he's a disruptive player. He plays a lot of juice and a lot of energy, and I think our plan is to have him in our schemes going to just even enhance his skill set even more.
So talk about that. When you say he played in a read scheme with the Steelers, what exactly does that mean? If you could just break it down for our fans.
Yeah, I mean, in general, very, very very broken down. The way we play our front, when our D-line ball snap, we're asking them to penetrate and get up the field and just cause disruption in the backfield and be sort of an aggressive and attacking front. There's other styles of defense that ask their D-line to stay more at the line of scrimmage, occupy blocks. So you hear like a read scheme, like they're reading the play instead of just, we'd like to go attack and get disruption and get up the field. Other schemes and one that he played in some of the time where they just asked those guys really to not get up the field and stay at the line of scrimmage and sort of play blocks and just sort of hold space. So sometimes it's a hard translation trying to see, hey, can a guy play? Some guys are sort of more fit for those schemes, more fit for our schemes. So, you're always, when you're evaluating those players, and they're not playing in a scheme that sort of is a direct fit for what we're doing. You're just trying to translate and project how that fits. And we felt really good about him coming. We think there's more upside for him. We think he fits sort of our style of play a little bit more possibly.
Yeah, and that's what was so interesting to see about him going to Pittsburgh was that, I remember watching him at the East-West Shrine Bowl. He was so dominant down there in practices in St. Petersburg. He was unblockable in one-on-ones. You could see that ability to be disruptive. Senior Bowl the next week, he was more the same, and he was really unblockable in practice. But I was anxious to see what he would look like in Pittsburgh in that scheme, and they did a great job kind of bringing him along. The next question I had for you was, one of the things that has always stood out to me watching him with the Steelers, he's so good in stunts and twists and all the different games that they run with him up front. What does it take for a guy to be so effective running those kinds of schemes up front?
Well, I mean, obviously from an athletic standpoint, for a bigger man to be able to move into those things and move his feet that way, and still have the power to get penetration. A lot of times when you're running stunts. Sometimes you can get too lateral, get washed sideways because you don't have the power to kind of get back up north-south and penetrate. So, he's got that ability to, obviously, he's got some good quickness, the stuff you were talking about when, you noticed coming out of college. He's got that foot athlete ability for a big man, but he's still he's a really powerful kid. So when he does kind of penetrate and get back up north-south, he can really push the pocket still and bang into guys. And like I said, they do some of that, obviously, when they get to some third down. He was kind of cut loose a little bit more, and he plays really good leverage. So that helps. He gets underneath pads of offensive linemen a lot to be able to kind of work underneath them. And just he's constantly knocking guys back. Like, he was just constantly going forward. Like you said, whether he's stunting, whether he's just in a one gap scheme. Obviously, when they ask him to do his read technique and to anchor down, he's got some natural ballast to do that. But when he's going forward, we noticed he was always constantly just like walking linemen back, knocking guys back, getting pressure. So we just think if we ask him to do that every down and in our scheme, I think that's going to be a good fit for us. We're excited to have him. Really excited.
So I want to ask you a question just about defensive linemen in general, particularly young defensive linemen, whether they're off the edge or interior guys. I remember him coming out. His swim move was awesome, and he had the ability to kind of win with that. That was kind of his go-to trick in his bag. When you look at defensive linemen coming out, is it better for a guy to have one go-to move that was really, really effective for them, or maybe multiple moves that weren't as effective, but they had a lot of different tricks in their toolbox?
Yeah, I think it's hard. I think you can get, the whole like jack of all trades, master of none. I think you'll see a lot of good rushers have one go-to move, because a lot of times that sets up the other moves or your counters to that. You know what I mean? If you don't have a move that you can win with every time, and you're just throwing a bunch of stuff out there, sometimes it just gets kind of mushy and isn't as effective. I find that, guys that, hey, I have a go-to move that I know the offensive lineman has to respect because I can win with this. I've proven it. I've mastered it, whatever it may be. And so I find that guys that have sort of, one or two pitches that are their go-tos, that sets up their counters. Now they don't have to use their counters as much, or when they do, their counters are more effective because the threat of that, man, this guy can beat me with his swim move, or, whatever the move is, an inside stab move or something. That's going to set up all their other counter moves, as opposed to just sort of keep throwing different moves out there and hoping, that one of them works, or not being quite as good at all. It's hard to master a lot of them. I think you find more effective rushers will have one or two pitches that they consistently go to, and then the changeups are just that, changeups that just keep offensive linemen honest enough, or keep them off balance enough when they're just setting on that one move, when all of a sudden you throw the counter, it keeps them honest, and then it keeps your sort of one or two pitches still clean. So it's hard for a guy. It's hard to rush the passer, man. So, I think trying to do too much sometimes can get a little bit much. So we really try to emphasize, like, hey, guys, have a pitch, throw your fastball, have one or two moves, and then you can set your counters up off of that. So that's kind of more what we look for.
I wanted to ask you too, we've talked a lot on this podcast about positionless players, right? And guys that can line up and play a number of different roles, whether it's in the secondary, up in the front seven, on offense, with receivers and backs and tight ends. What does a positionless guy look like along the defensive line? And what does that mean for a coach like yourself to have a guy that can do that?
It's probably the closer you get to the ball, the less that applies. Although for us, again, a lot of it comes down to being able to rush. So, if you have a guy like Fletch who can really rush wherever he wants, you can set things up. BG being able to rush inside a little bit. Even a guy like Malik that can rush inside and outside a little bit. Those sort of things. That, to me, that's where it comes into play in terms of our rush package. Guys that can rush from different spots and have some sort of inside outside. Because now, again, it's sort of like we were just talking about. You're prepping for an opponent, and you can throw different looks at an offensive lineman. So a guard is, blocking Fletch, and all of a sudden BG's in there. That's a totally different type of rush, a different type of block. And you can kind of play those matchup games a little bit and move guys around. That's probably where it comes into play a little bit more. So guys that can either, there's some guys you see that are sort of, I don't say base ends, or can, like, bigger guys that can play defensive end in terms of run situation. first, second down, they can move inside and rush. There's some ends that can rush inside and you can get matchups on guards. There's some, rare tackles like Fletch and Malik, the guys that are athletic enough that can rush on the edge too. So the versatility we look for there is really like that sort of thing is, can we move guys around in our rush package to create different matchups, rush different guys, just give different pitches. So now, we don't need Fletch running, having 6 different rushes on a guard. Fletch can have a couple different rushes. Then we can put BG in there. Then we can move Malik over to that side, or Hargrave or whoever. So, the versatility I think comes from that, being able to play some different spots along the line. That's what we'll look for with those guys.
And I guess, too, it's the mental side of it, too, for those guys, right? Because they have to have different plans of attack against a guard or a center as opposed to an offensive tackle where they might have a little bit more space.
Sure, absolutely. So, again, it's partly athletic. It's partly the mental approach to it. But, again, that the offensive lines get the same issue, you know what I mean? So now, hey, I'm an offensive tackle. I'm going to block Derek Barnett differently than I'm going to block. All of a sudden Fletch lines up on the edge on me or whoever that may be. So kind of goes both ways. And again, you don't want to put your guys in a spot where it's too much or they're not being effective. It's the whole point is week to week, you look at it and say, okay, where is our most effective rushers, or who can we isolate, or how can we get this matchup? And, but the guys that give you that ability to move them around the line to do that, there's some guys that can't rush from one side, or literally some guys can only be a left end or only a right end. Their stances are weird. They don't rush as good from one side or another. So sometimes that kind of limits you a little bit and say, okay, well, he has to be over here and you can't really do as much with him. But the guys that you can kind of bounce around the line and have them line up in different spots give you some flexibility there.
And lastly, Coach, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about Hassan Ridgeway. Javon Hargrave was the first big acquisition for the Eagles this offseason. The first re-signing was Ridgeway. And I'd like to just ask you, what did you see from Ridgeway his first year in Eagles green? What's the scouting report that you can give fans? They saw a little bit limited exposure. You've obviously seen a lot more of Hassan.
Yeah, unfortunately not too much more, from him getting the injury last year. It was funny, even going back through the cut-up, sometimes you get lost. He got hurt early in the year, so the second half of the year, things kind of get out of your head. You're obviously in the day-to-day. Going back to these cut-ups this offseason, his flashes were really good. He's a powerful man. He's a bigger body than some of the guys we've had in there. Really powerful. When he was a guy coming to the system, like talked about with Hargrave a little bit. Last year's first year here, hadn't totally played a full attack style like we had. So there was a little bit of a transition for him. So, for us feeling like, okay, a second year sort of in this scheme with him, he was, again, there were flashes on film last year, him really doing some good things and really penetrating and knocking guys off. He's a bigger guy. So if you can get a guy of his size that can generate that force, that can play the attack style we want to play, that's obviously a huge plus for us. So we saw a lot of progress. We saw a lot of flashes. Going back, watching the cut-ups after the season, he kind of kept popping up, going, man, Rich did some really good things. And hopefully there's another year of growth and another year of comfort playing the scheme and playing the system. We think there's some good upside for Ridge there. So we're excited to get him back too. There's another good player in the fold for us.
Under the circumstances, you joining us here on PhiladelphiaEagles.com. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Good. I appreciate the social interaction, man.
Awesome stuff there from Coach Burke. I hope you guys enjoyed that talk with him as much as I did. The stuff he gave us about developing a pass rush plan as a young defensive lineman was awesome. It was great talking to him about Javon Hargrave and just kind of see how he'll fit in this Eagles defense this fall. But let's get to the next part of Chalk Talk. This week, the great Willie McGinest joined us from down at the Shrine Bowl to keep the discussion going about what it takes to be a standout pass rusher in the NFL. Well, really happy to welcome into Chalk Talk on the Eagle Eye in the Sky podcast, fueled by Gatorade, NFL legend, Willie McGinest. Willie, welcome to the show. We're doing this from the dugout of the Tampa Bay Devil Rays here at the Trop for the East-West Shrine Bowl. Talk about the role that you're playing down here, working with these kids as they're getting ready to go through the draft process.
Well, actually, I played in the game, East-West Shrine game, when it was up north. And played at Stanford Stadium. Okay. And, playing in the league, I'm in the Legends program, of course, with a lot of other NFL guys that played. And, I came last year, and I thought it was a great opportunity to come back and work with the kids. And they kind of give us a coaching role, put us in our position group, and we go out, we interact with the kids, teach them some technique, and just try to, be a part of it because these kids are taking a huge step, what to expect on the next level, certain things to look for. And, this is an all-star game, so you also want to have fun, but it's great to have guys that played, especially your position, that can, kind of coach you up and give you some insight.
Well, you are certainly coaching these guys up. I mean, I've seen alumni work with players, whether it's at this game or other games, and some guys a little bit more passive. You are very active and into it with these guys. Do they kind of react to that as opposed to other styles? Have you found that that's worked for you?
Well, I'm just me,
and
I know everybody. I know everybody, is a little bit different, but I'm around the youth football circuit. I'm around high school. I'm around college players, and I work for the NFL. So I'm on it, from the grassroots all the way up. And sometimes these kids respect it when they know a guy can do it. You can go out here and show them, and you can tell them how to do it, but you can also show them. And just being able to connect, speak their language, give them that energy.
Sure.
And the communication to me is the key that brings it all together. These guys are exceptional athletes, but if they see somebody connecting, talking to them on their level and trying to break the game down and trying to inspire and help them, I think it makes a difference.
I want to talk about pass rushers and just kind of building one from the ground up. What is one of the most important things for a pass rusher to be successful in the NFL that maybe a lot of fans and media don't necessarily talk about, but there's something that's really, really important to that position?
Edge rusher?
Yeah.
I think you see a lot of speed edge rushers, and of course getting off the football is key, but I think you got to have multiple moves. I mean, you see a lot of one-trick ponies, the guys that can just speed and dip off the edge.
Yep.
And a lot of times, if you're playing in the NFL, they figure it out pretty soon, what you can do and what you can't do. So I think, we were talking about a pass rusher, and I was saying, we was talking about Myles Garrett, a guy like that's so dominant, strong for his size. He's so explosive. He has great lean. But, I work with him a little bit. He's one of those guys I would love to just spend more time with because I can teach him a spin move. I could teach him a pole arm. I could teach him, the speed to power. I could teach him like a short spin, after getting the lineman off balance and how to work different moves. And pass rushing, you got to set up moves, and it takes reps. But you got to understand what the offensive lineman, what his weaknesses are, what he's trying to do to you, and you got to have counter moves off of that to keep them off balance. If you're doing one thing, you're not going to have a lot of success.
For young guys, is it better, watching college pass rushers, there are some guys that have like a really deep toolbox, but maybe none of those moves are really well developed yet. There are other guys that they've got one move that is really good and they've got a couple counters off that. Is it more important for them to kind of have a lot of variety or really just kind of hone in, give me one really good one and a counter off of that, and that's a good base to build?
I would say have a couple.
Gotcha.
I would say have a couple. If you have one and that's great, that can get you so far. But like I said, at some point, they pay these left tackles and right tackles a lot of money to figure that out. And you got to have a counter move. You got to have a couple moves. And as you grow and develop, you should develop, more moves in your arsenal.
Yep.
You got to become smarter as the game goes on.
Yeah, I was coming down here just thinking about some guys that have been here before. Like Zadarius Smith was a guy I remember watching him at Kentucky, and he just hadn't figured it out yet as a pass rusher. And now you watch him now, and you talk about different ways to win.
He's winning a lot of ways. You see him in a playoff game. He's got his shirt on that says snub. In that game, they can move him over to guard. They move him. He's an outside guy. They can do a lot of different things. But, you see him speed to power. He has that ability to do that. He's swimming. He's sitting the tackles and guards down. Swimming over. He's double moving. Like all those different things, man. When you're fast and you're explosive, they have to respect it.
Right.
And then you can use it to your advantage.
What's the most important athletic trait for a pass rusher?
I would say probably balance and leverage.
Okay. What's that look like on film?
Well, you're low, you're lean, you're not high. When you're high, you open up the target, the target gauge for the offensive tackle. Being able to twist, twerk your body so you can, attack half a man, things like that. I always tell pass rushers that it's our job to create the space, keep the space between us and the tackles, because they want to eliminate space. They want to grab us. They want to pull us in. And our job is to get to the ball and the quarterback.
Right.
So you got to be good in space with your hands. I think the hands, if there's one thing I would say that's a lost art with pass rushing, it's the ability for these guys to use their hands. Aaron Donald is one of the best at using his hands. I mean, he's lethal with his hands. And if you can keep guys off of you and work your hands really well and create that space and create movement by getting off, then you've got a shot.
Yeah, I've heard from coaches in the past, offensive line is man on man, defensive line man off man, and you're just doing everything to try and maintain
we want
that
the
space.
ball.
That's right.
Yeah, we're trying to get to the ball.
You talk about guys that are active with their hands, and one guy I just feel is just so underrated right now, and the production is just flown under the radar is Chandler Jones, and like how active.
I don't know why, man. I don't know why people keep saying he's underrated. This guy's all pro.
I know, he's ridiculous.
Yeah, 19 sacks this year. He had a half a sack away from what? Shaquille Barrett had 19 and a half. He had 19 sacks. He has consistently had double-digit sacks for I don't know how long. Now, here's a guy that I spoke to, in his earlier years.
Sure.
He's long. He has long arms. And a lot of times these pass rushers who have long arms, Daniil Hunter's another guy I talked to, use that length. Like you can use that pole arm to set up moves, to work moves, to pop these tackles. And they're like puppets. I call them puppets. When you give them something, they shoot their hands. Then that's when you start working and going to work. And Chandler Jones, man, he's a good dude. He's solid. He's so consistent. He uses his leverage really well. Even when he speeds the power, he doesn't make any contact with his head. It's always hands first. He shoots his hands really well. And I'm a big fan, and I don't know why he doesn't get his props.
I think it's because a lot of attention goes to guys like Von Miller and some of these other guys that were high draft picks, and he was a first round pick too.
I get it, but it's all about production.
It's crazy,
And Von's one of the top. I'm not comparing those two, but here's a guy in the NFC that probably should have made the Pro Bowl. 19 sacks.
Yeah. And Za'Darius didn't make the Pro Bowl either,
right?
Like with what he was doing, which is insane.
And let me just set the record on this. It's not always about getting the sack. It's affecting the pocket. So if I hit you and I cause you to get rid of the ball early and you throw a short hop or overthrow or you can't get the ball out, you got to throw it away. That's just as effective as a sack. So a lot of times the hits on the quarterbacks or just getting that pressure doesn't show up, in the stat book, but it says a lot when you watch the tape.
Really, I'm glad you brought up Daniil Hunter because he was that guy coming out of LSU as a junior. Yeah, I think he only had single-digit sacks coming out. A lot of people said, "Oh, he's not a pass rusher, But you saw him use that length and be able to kind of maximize that. And he's turned that into success playing for Mike Zimmer.
Yeah, Mike Zimmer will put you in position and he'll give you the tools to go out and perform at a high level. Then they call him Gumby.
Yeah, right.
That's a guy, man. He talk about reach and arm length. I mean. He figured it out. Talking to him, he figured it out, man, and he's using it now. And he doesn't let guys get close to him. He doesn't ever you rarely see him now get wrapped up with guys.
Are there guys if a guy does not have that length, if there's I don't know what the number would be, if it's 32 inch, 32 and a half inch, if he doesn't have that length, is that something that would kind of give you pause for a guy making that transition to the NFL?
No, there's other guys. I mean, look at Shaquille Barrett.
Sure.
He's not as long as those guys, but he's an effective pass rusher. And you got to be able, like I said, to use your hands and be explosive. So, you got like Khalil Mack. He's a bowling ball. He's strong. He's physical. He's big. He's more of an explosive power type guy. Like slap rips. He may pop you with the arm, but then he's getting off like the jerk moves, like he can get off and rip, all those different things. Like Khalil Mack is different than those other guys, but just as effective.
Is there one particular thing that typically comes up with these young guys that is pretty consistent across the board? Like, all right, I know that this guy has to work here in this area.
Well, a lot of young guys that are edge rushers, a lot of times they think they can run around everybody.
Right, yep.
So they got to understand a lot of times they end up behind a quarterback, which is the worst place, in the league. So I think with them, and talking to some of the guys out here, it's just saying, hey, you already, if you speed rushed him a couple times, now he's kicking. So if he's kicking, he's giving up the inside. So now you got to threaten the inside. Then you got to make him sit down. Now he's thinking. All right, now he's light on his feet because he's thinking. So now you may want to throw a speed to power in there or a jerk or something else, whatever the case may be. But you gotta use that. And these kids sometimes they get so honed in and just trying to get to the quarterback, they forget and stop reading the tackle and reading what the tackle is given or the guard if you're inside what they're giving you. Had one guy yesterday, the tackle kick set way out, and he still tried to get outside. I'm like, what are you?
I saw you coaching him up on this.
Yeah, take the inside. If he's giving it to you, go right now. Don't waste no time.
Right.
Like the quickest path to the quarterback is a straight line, like right there. Go get him.
Yeah, and you were coaching a guy up. I forget if it was the same player or not, but on that spin move, being able to counter now and going back inside.
That was the interior line. The kid from Utah.
Okay.
And he was spinning before he got to the actual, to the guard. The guard was just waiting on him.
Yep.
I'm like, you got to threaten an edge or a side to get him to move.
Yep.
Once he moves over, then you can come with that counter.
Sure, yeah. I think for Eagles fans, they've seen Derek Barnett kind of get better and better.
I like him, man.
With that. What do you like about Derek?
I like that he's a powerful guy. He does a great job with leverage. He comes off the football. He plays the run. He plays the point really well. But he's had strong hands.
Yep.
Really strong hands. So he breaks down, hands of the tackles and different things like that. But I've been watching him since he came out. I actually picked him to be one of the top pass rushers, in this league in a few years.
Sure, yeah, and I think when you look at the guys with that spin move, a lot of times it's very static. They're not gaining any ground.
No.
They're not. You mentioned they're not threatening the edge. Some of these guys trying to learn that, and you've seen it. That's what's been fun about watching Derek is even though he was a top 15 pick, I think fans were expecting, all right, he's going to come in right now and be a double-digit sack guy.
And he rotated.
Yeah,
he didn't even start the first year,
right.
And that's okay.
Yep.
But he is one of those guys, and he's one of those guys that used a lot of moves and can do a lot of different things. And it helps to have other good pass rushers alongside you.
No question. Well, Willie, really appreciate the time here on the Eagle Eye in the Sky podcast. Best of luck the rest of this week, and we'll catch up with you again soon.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks.
Great stuff there from Willie. You could follow him just like I do on Twitter at Willie McGinest. And while you're at it, I'm at FDuffy3. That's where I post all the podcasts I'm a part of and all of our X's and O's content that we produce at PhiladelphiaEagles.com. And you know how much I appreciate everybody that promotes this podcast on all forms of social media. That is one way to support the show. But the other way is to go into Apple Podcasts or Stitcher, give us a rating, and even leave us a comment. Here's one person I wanted to give a quick shout out to. Hala2M Low left a 5-star review saying, "Hi, Fran, love the strategic discussion and material you provide on each podcast. As a person with mostly an analytics background, I view the linebacker position as somewhat diminished in the pass-heavy league that we have now, but Jatavis Brown seems to be a solid potential contributor with an average of 3.5 pass breakups and 3 tackles for loss per season, as well as some pass rush potential in a limited sample size. Do you see him playing a 3-down role, or will there be multiple safety packages on nickel and dime with Will Parks now? What is your scouting viewpoint on Parks and Brown via tape? Thanks for your great work, Matt." Well, Matt, this is a great question, and I think it really kind of speaks to where we're at in the NFL today. And that's, I've talked a lot about it over the course of the last couple of months, and there's a big reason for that. But positionless football, you talk about, the bigger safeties that can come downhill and play close to the line of scrimmage, or smaller linebackers. All those guys kind of do the same things, right? So whether it's Jatavis Brown or whether it's Will Parks or whether it's a player that's not here yet or a player that's here that is going to develop and grow into that role, all those guys kind of do similar things, but it comes down to who do you feel most comfortable with out on the field. And that's why the spring, the summer, all of that is just so important for the coaches to try and figure out what packages are most valuable to us, what packages work well for us. We want to get the best 11 on the field, and ideally you don't want to have to say, all right, we're going to have 19 different personnel packages with all these different players shuffling in and out. You'd love the ability to only have to play a certain amount of guys and say, okay, we're ready for whatever the offense is going to throw at us on any given play. If they want to go 2 backs and spread us out wide, great. If they want to go 2 backs and play us tight and try and run the ball up the middle, great. We're ready for that as well. And that's where the term positionless football comes into play. You want those guys to be able to do a lot of different things. It just speaks to position versatility. And Jatavis Brown, he was one of those safety linebacker hybrids back at Akron. I remember studying him, and you saw that athleticism. You saw that range to be able to make plays from sideline to sideline, and the coverage ability. You mentioned the blitzing ability as well. So that versatility is certainly there. And then Will Parks, we've talked a lot about him over the course of the last couple of weeks and what he can bring to this Eagles defense from a versatility standpoint. This is a very tough kid. You go back to Arizona and you watch him there, and he did a lot of those same things that he did with the Denver Broncos. And I'm glad you brought this up, because next week on the show, I've got Eagles defensive back coach Marquand Manuel, and he's going to join us, just kind of talk about Will Parks. He's going to talk about Jalen Mills, how those guys and their versatile skill sets fit in with this Eagles defense next year, and what that means for that group as a whole. So make sure you tune in next week on the Eagle Eye in the Sky podcast, fueled by Gatorade. We'll cover all of that. So thanks so much, Matt. Great question there. Thanks so much for the comment. Thanks for the rating, and thanks to all of you out there for your continued support of this show and all the rest of our podcast offerings on PhiladelphiaEagles.com. All that being said, I think that'll do it. Another show in the books here on the Eagle Eye in the Sky podcast, fueled by Gatorade. For everybody here at the Duffy House, I'm Fran Duffy. We will talk to you next week.